everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of things. One is a 1950s style rhythm, and that's where you play a chord and then you double up what the bass player is doing with a little lead part, and you kind of put those two pieces together. A lot of guitar players would do that because they'd be in a trio, and so they had to fill the space. And so we're going to be covering that technique, but I'm also going to be walking you through a key change that happens in this, and what you do when you're playing, whether you're playing lead or rhythm, and how you follow those key changes. And we'll get into the details of where we're at and what scales we're using and all of that so that it all makes sense. So if you're a premium member, you're going to have access to part 2. But if you're not a premium member, you'll still be able to watch the first half of this for free. So we're going to get into that now. But if you want to download the jam track that I used, that had the kind of Blueberry Hill, Chubby Checkers style, and the tablature, as well as watch part 2, you're going to want to go to ActiveMelody.com and look for EP083. So let's go ahead and start the first half. Alright, so before we jump into the lesson, let me go ahead and explain my tone settings real quick. I always get emails. And so I'm playing through a US Standard Stratocaster, and I have the pickup selector switch all the way up here on the bridge pickup. My tone control's at 10%. Which is all the way up, and my volume is all the way up. So that's the guitar setting. It gives you a nice, when you play it that way, you have kind of or have those settings that way, you have kind of a nice twangy, it almost sounds a little bit like a Telecaster. So that's the settings there. I am playing through the Boss Blues Driver BD2 pedal, and I have the gain set at about 10%. The tone is about 50%, and the level is about 50%. So that gives you just a little bit of extra overdrive, which is kind of nice for this style of playing. It just kind of boosts your signal. And then the other thing I'm playing through is a Deluxe Memory Man to get a little bit of slapback echo. You can hear that. So it's at a minimal setting, but I think it gives you kind of a vintage sound. Now normally I play through a TC Electronics flashback. But just the other day I bought a Memory Man, and I've been kind of playing around with it, trying to see what sounds I can get. So that's how I'm getting that slapback. Now you don't need any of these effects. You can do all of this on an electric plug straight into an amp, or you can play this on an acoustic, or at least this first half you could certainly do that on an acoustic guitar. So alright, that's the settings. Now the song is in the key of A, and so the first thing that I play is an A major bar chord, and then as soon as I play it, I end the sound right away. You can hear how it just I kill it. Now the reason I'm playing this as a bar chord, some of you may be wondering, why aren't you playing like an A chord down here if you've learned an A chord? Well, the reason why you see a lot of rhythm players playing up higher in the neck is because you can control how long the strings ring out. And so when you're playing a bar chord, you can do things like that and just kill the sound right away, and it gives you a more rhythmic quality. So that's what I'm doing. So now to make that chord, I'm barring all 6 strings here on the 5th fret with my pointer finger, and I have my middle finger on the 6th fret 3rd string, my pinky's on the 7th fret 4th string, and my ring finger's on the 7th fret 5th string. When you play all 6 of those, you have a nice A chord, A major chord. So now the first thing that I play is actually just the 6th string by itself. That's kind of setting the tone, really. And then I come and I follow it up with a quick downstroke. And what I'm really doing is I'm playing probably strings 4, 3, 2, and 1. I don't think I'm hitting all 6 strings, but that's how I'm doing it. Now notice what happens. I leave my fingers in place here for the bar chord, and I have them pushed down, if you can see, they're pushed down there just to create the note, and then I release them. See how they're released? But they stay in place. But when they're released in place, you get this muted effect, and that's what really is controlling when you hear a guitar player doing those kinds of things. They're controlling the on and off of the ring of the string by whether they're pressing down or not. So that's what I'm doing there to get that sound. It's just a quick pop, and that happens on the 2. So if we're counting this, it's 1, 2. Okay, and then that's followed up with a little lead part, or really it's doubling up the bass part that goes like this. Now, let me go through those notes and then I'll explain where those notes are coming from so that you can, this will make more sense to you. But we're going to start by playing the 7th fret, 5th string, and we'll use our pointer finger for that. And I'm going to hammer on up here to the 9th fret, 5th string. Just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go. Now for that, I'm starting on the 7th fret, 6th string with my ring finger. It's important to use your ring finger for that because you're going to slide it up to the 9th fret on the 6th string. And then you can put your pointer finger down on the 5th string on the 7th fret to play that note. Now we're going to slide back down from the 9th fret to the 7th fret on the 6th string. And then we're back down to the 5th fret on the 6th string. So we have... And those little slides are important. If you didn't do them and you just played them straight like this, it just sounds way too robotic. So you definitely want to kind of slide them in, and it gives it more of a human, like a human voice type quality. So if I were to put those two pieces together, we have... Now, here's the other thing, is once you slide back down to and you have your pointer finger on the 5th fret, 6th string, you're right back into position, and you have just enough time while that note is ringing out to put your fingers back into place here, these 3 fingers, to create that A chord. And it just becomes a little cycle. Now, if you're having issues at this point, just stop, don't go any farther, and just try and get down the timing of that. And you don't have to play along with the jam track, the MP3 file. Yet you can. In fact, if you're new to this, that's just going to throw you off. So just try and get something fluid, set a metronome, tap your foot, or something to be able to play that. Even if you're playing it really, really slow, that's okay. Just try and get it fluid. So that's what's happening now. Note these little notes here. Let me explain where those are coming from. Those are right out of the A major scale. And the major scale is always an easy scale to find no matter what key you're in, because it's just do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's how I always think of it. And so you can always pick those notes out with your ear because they're just obvious. So if we're playing the key of A, for example, and the 5th fret is our root fret, which, by the way, that's covered. If you're not familiar with what a root fret is, you're going to want to check out the blues lead course at activemelody.com. I explain all of the minor pentatonic scales and what a root fret even means. But if that's your root fret, you can play off of that fret to get either the minor pentatonic scale, which will sound real bluesy, or the major pentatonic scale, which will sound a lot more happy. See? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So here's how I think of this. So now if we're playing in the key of A, look what happens. If you start here on the 6th string, which is right on your root fret, so you can do this in any key now if you know where your root fret is, but you start here on the 6th string, we're going to skip a fret and we're going to go to the 7th fret. We skip another fret and we're going to go to the 9th fret. So now notice that little pattern. Play a note, skip a fret, play a note, skip a fret, play a note. Now we're going to do that same thing on the next string, on the 5th string. So we're going to come up here, play a note, skip a fret, play a note, skip a fret. So you can see what's happening. And that's all right off of the A. Now what's nice is just in those 6 notes, you can already see where I'm getting this. Those are all coming from that. But you could do other variations. You could play. Or whatever, you could just kind of make up your own little thing. And that's what's nice about that is when you're playing rhythm guitar now, don't just be thinking about Think about it this way. Now you have some notes that you can start to pull from. So you could play. You can kind of go back and forth between a rhythm and a lead, and that's just giving you, it's just a handful of notes, but you can do a lot with those 6 notes, and they're all in the major scale. And so anyway, I just thought that was, hopefully that'll inspire some of you to kind of experiment with that and see what you can come up with on your own. You don't have to just do the ones that I'm showing you. So, okay, so that's the A part. Now, the next thing that happens is we go to a D. And the D chord happens here. Now, there's really two, well, there's more than two, but two, in my mind, there's two very commonly used major chord shapes when you're playing bar chords up and down the neck. This is one of them. The other one is like this. And so remember, this one is just a derivation of playing an E. Well, this one is like playing an A. So remember, this is your nut, so it's kind of the same thing. Like if we were to play, the only difference is you would take, I use my pinky for this. Most people use their ring finger. But all 6 strings here on the 5th fret, and then I take my pinky and I bar the first 4 strings on the 7th fret. And I play the middle 4 strings like this. So 5, 4, 3, and 2. And that's another way to play a major chord. Now that's a D chord. And what's nice about that is this same bar is just it's in place for both chords. So you have the A chord and then you have the D chord. And so some of you may be wondering, well, if you played the A part here, why wouldn't you just come up here and play the D part here, doing the exact same thing, right? And I could have done that, but the problem is you're getting kind of high on the neck for one, so there's definitely more room for error. And why go this high when you can do the whole same thing right here, and it's all in one little area? And so that's where, so it's just out of convenience. But you certainly could, and this would be correct, to do the same thing up here. So let's go over the D. So now we know how to make the D shape. I start that by just playing the 5th fret, 5th string, just kind of like how we started the other one. I remember we started just on the 6th fret, or 6th string on the 5th fret. So we start with that D note, and then we're going to play just the middle 4 strings like this. Okay, and now we're going to do this little lead part that follows the bass. Now the difference is exactly actually the same that we did on the A, but the difference is we're up a set of strings now. So we're starting here on the 5th fret. We're going to come up to the 4th string on the 7th fret, and we're going to hammer onto the 9th fret. So that's happening on the 4th string now. Remember, before we were down here. Now we're up here, and then we're going to go. Notice it's the same little pattern. So we're going to start on the 5th string this time instead of the 6th. 7th fret, slide up to the 9th, play the 7th fret 4th string. There's that little quick slide. As soon as we hit the 9th fret 5th string, we're down to the 7th, and then we're back down to the 5th, which is our root note, which allows you to play that D. It gives you just enough time to be able to put down your finger and complete the chord. So there's the shape. Now let me show you one other little trick, and I thought about using this in the intro, but I didn't do it. But just another way to even enhance it a little farther. Instead of just playing those single notes when you're doing that, if you just bar, the first 4 strings there, you can play. When you're hammering onto that 9th fret 4th string. You could play strings 4 and 3 together. See how they kind of harmonize? I thought about doing that, but I wanted to keep it simple and to the point. But I did want to point that out. So that's just another way to. So the first time through, for example, you could go. The second time through, just to give it a little more build, you can do it that way. And you can see what's happening when you do that bar. It's just part of that D chord, right? same thing. You just so now you have some more room to kind of go even higher. So that's how that's working and why it's working. So okay, so there's the D part. Now the next thing that happens is we go to an E chord. But the good news is all you're doing is taking exactly what you did on the D and you're sliding it up 2 frets. So now this becomes the E chord. So it's the exact same thing that we did on the D. Everything is starting here. And so hopefully now you can start to visualize where these chords are and why they're working. One other little thing to point out, and I can do this on the E chord, is while I showed you the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, dos for this shape, or for when we were playing an A, you can do the same thing here for like the E or the D. So it just starts on the 5th string this time. So you have those same 6 strings to work with. So you can start to see how you can add in some more color to your playing. So that's kind of another little thing to point out. It's those same 6 strings, and it's nice because they're in like little boxes, and so it's very easy. It's play a string, skip a string, play a string, skip a string, or play a fret, skip a fret. So you just have this. It's almost like, think of it kind of like piano keys, really. You know how the piano keys, you have the black keys in between. That's really kind of what's happening there when you're following these patterns. So okay, so if we were to put it all together now, it sounds like this. Now, to get back to the A, I come down here and go. And all I did was play those same little notes that we've already played, but I came down to the 7th fret, 5th string, hammered onto the 9th fret, 5th string, back to the 7th fret, and then I did the slide down from the 9th fret to the 7th fret on the 6th string, and then back down to position. And we're ready to repeat. And so even if you don't go any farther and go into the part 2 where I change keys, that's a lot that you can practice and play with and start to come up with your own little lead parts out of those 6 notes that I showed you in the major scale. So that's all we have in this first part. In the next part, we're going to go into the key change, which gets into some cool stuff. You're playing some chords, playing a few lead notes, and I'll also explain where those lead notes are coming from and what scales we're pulling them from. So we'll see you in part 2.